Hi, I'm Mariah and I'm the children's pastor at our Lake Stevens campus. Thanks so much for joining us online today. If this is your first time checking us out, welcome. We're so excited that you're here and we would love to get to know you better. Text Gold Creek to the number there on your screen and someone from our Connections team will contact you so that we can meet you. Also, if you call Gold Creek your home already, we are so grateful for you. We cannot have church without you. For your time, for your resources, for all of the energy that you give to our church, thank you so much. And if you're looking for an opportunity to get more involved by giving, text GC Lake Stevens to the number on your screen right now. Enjoy service.
Hey, Gold Creek Church family, I'm so glad that you were clicking on this. There's gonna be a number that pops up on screen right now. I want you to text the word gift to this number and I'm gonna explain what this number means. It's gonna be on the whole time because it's very, very important, which is why it's not gonna come off through the whole video. But what we're doing this Christmas season is a little bit different. Obviously, 2020 has made us kind of change things and do things a little bit differently, from online to drive-in, all of these things. But we're gonna try something this year that we've never done, which is we have created these amazing gifts that we wanna give to your friends and family. And I'm gonna explain what these gifts are in a second, but I'm gonna first say that this is not for you. There's a reason why it's not for you, because I'm already gonna give you a gift on Christmas Eve. You guys know I will take care of you. I'm gonna give you guys gifts when you get there. Your kids are gonna get gifts. So this is not for you. As cool as this box is gonna be, it is not for you. This box is for your friends, your family, your coworkers, your neighbors, people that do not go to church, that need to step foot into church to hear about Jesus. That's who this is designed for. And what's really cool is we designed this all in-house. Our artists are amazing. They created these multicultural settings. There's Paris and there's Canada and Hong Kong and Egypt and all of these things, and it represents the diversity that we live in, that our neighbors are from different places. And when they receive this gift, when they open it up, there's gonna be a 7-day experience that they will have where each day there's a gift that they open, almost like an advent calendar that represents a certain culture, a certain a people group. It may be candy, it might be an ornament, but it's gonna represent them, it's gonna have their story. And every day their families are gonna have an opportunity to open, and on the final day is the invitation, the candles. Our invitation, our gift, our God culture, if you will, of saying we want to light this candle to represent who Jesus is. And this is it's gonna culminate with this. We're gonna invite them to the candle lighting service where they will be able to light their own candles. It is phenomenal what the product is and how much work they have put into this. It is incredible, and I am so proud of what they have done. But in order for this to be successful, I need your help. I need you to click that link, fill out that form, and order enough boxes for all the people that you want to invite to this service or to our services. Invite them. So I need you. I can't invite thousands of people by myself, but with you, we can do it. So I need you to go, click on it, order a bunch of these boxes. Again, it's not for you. It's not that I don't want to give you anything. I'm going to give you other stuff. This is the tool that we're going to use. This is our way that we can hand someone a box and say, here's a gift from you. It's from our church. And it's super easy for you, and it's super easy for them as well to get a taste of what we at Gold Creek can do. So my encouragement to you, when we have our Christmas Eve services at Cedar Springs on Christmas Eve, let's invite our friends and family. Let's let them hear about Jesus. Click that link, fill out that form, and I'll see you guys on Christmas Eve. Hey, welcome Sunday morning. I'm glad you guys are here. This is a message that I've actually never preached before, so I'm excited for you guys to hear it. We're calling it 23andMe, and I actually added the Christmas edition because we're gonna talk about Jesus. But before we did, have you ever thought about where you came from? Have you, honestly, I mean, there's Ancestry.com and there's 23andMe and there's like a handful of other companies that will research your family tree for you and let you know exactly who your relatives are, and they can trace it back for centuries. Have you ever wondered maybe what your great grandparents did, or where they came from, or how they met? Honestly, I'm gonna be super honest with you right now. I've never really cared. People have asked me, and even Pastor Dan, as we were preparing this message, have you ever figured, do you know how far back your family goes? And I can only go back to my grandparents. I have no idea who my great-grandparents are on either side of my family. It's just something that has never really interested me. It was, okay, cool, I have family. And I don't know why, which is ironic because I love history. I love being on historical landmarks. So there's a chance that I could be related to someone amazing. But on the flip side, maybe this is why I don't really want to know, there's a chance that I could be related to someone that's terrible, that is a part of history in the wrong way, right? I mean, it could just be immensely bad, and it could be immensely ridiculous. You know, a few years ago, I had a long-lost relative, or, you know, one of those uncles on this side who's twice removed and things like that, contact me. He calls me and he says, hey, James, I'm, I can't remember his name right now. And he says, hey, I have some information about her family. Would you like to know it? And the way he phrased it that way, I was like, wait, information? Is this a kidnapping call? Right. So that was my first thought, right? Did he kidnap someone? And he just starts asking questions and he starts telling me, and I honestly could not wait to get off the phone because I felt like I was being scammed. Like he at any moment was going to tell me that I'm related to the Prince of Nigeria and that he just needed my social security number and bank account and I would be a millionaire. And I just couldn't wait to get off the phone. And part of it was because I felt like I was being scammed. And the other part, honestly, it goes back to what I said before. I never really cared to know my family history. And as I get older, I've noticed that I do want to know more. But that idea in the back of my head, what if I'm related to someone that causes shame or guilt or remorse that I'm even poking at this? What if that happens? You know, what if that was for you? If you went through this 23andMe or Ancestry.com and you found out you were related to Hitler, how would that change your view of family? Or perhaps you were related even further back, you know, John Wilkes Booth, the assassination of Lincoln, you know, which that would be terrible. Or the Unabomber, right? That's a more recent one. I talked to someone and they're like, yeah, I know people in Oklahoma and they were neighbors with him and they were friends with him. And I'm just like, wow. Or in South Africa, you have Idi Amin, right? What if you were related to these people? How would you feel? What if your family tree had all of these people on it that you're like, ooh, I wish that branch didn't exist? Well, as we look at the Bible today and as we head into the holiday season and we celebrate the birth of Jesus here, I wanted to encourage you because when you look at Jesus's genealogy, and typically I do this all the time, Matthew chapter 1, I read it really quick. I almost skip it. I just kind of glance over it. David, Joseph, Jesus, right? And I glance over it because I'm like, okay, it's Jesus' history, great. But it wasn't until, I don't know, fairly recently that I started looking at his family history and noticing that there is a collection of people that you may not associate with the Savior of mankind. I don't know what it is. I think I'm allergic to this fake tree. But before Mary, before Joseph, before the three wise men, and before the shepherds and angels in the field, before we sang Away in a Manger, there was great ancestors of the line of Jesus. So we're going to talk about them, and we're going to go to Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. This is the record of the ancestors of Jesus, the Messiah, the descendants of David and of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac. Isaac was the father of Jacob. Jacob was the father of Judah and his brothers. Judah was the father of Perez and Terah, or Terah, whose mother was Tamar. Perez was the father of Hezron. Hezron was the father of Ram. First of all, how cool is that if your name was Ram? I mean, I feel like your job is to just run into people, right? My name is Ram. Oh, I get it. Okay, cool. But I look at this lineage and I look at what's going on with Judah and Tamar and Perez. And I thought, what if deception was a part of your family history? What if your family history had deception in it? You're looking at Tamar here. She married Judah's oldest son. Now, Tamar in herself was not Jewish. She was not Israelite. So this was already a big deal. This was already a Jewish no-no. This was already a condition that God had that they broke. They were not supposed to marry these people that they had conquered, and they just did anyways. And so Judah, who was not a good guy, when you read the account of Judah with how he dealt with Joseph, and you just wonder, why in the world did God choose his line to lead to Jesus? Why not Joseph, who saved all of Egypt and the people of Israel, right?
or Benjamin or some of these other guys. Why Judah? And I look at this and I go, what is happening? So here he is. He lets his oldest son marry Tamar. The oldest son dies before giving her a child. So by Jewish custom and law, the next son is supposed to give her children, and he's supposed to marry the next son. Well, that next son didn't really want to. We don't know the exact reason of why he chose what he did in his heart, but he never fully consummated the marriage. And as a result of that and the fact that he was also a wicked guy, he dies. So now there's son number 3, but he's too young to marry. He's still a child. And Judah promises her, hey, when he's old enough, I will give you him. My last son, you can have him. And so she waits patiently. And when he gets old enough, no response. There's no mail carrier at the door. There's no wedding invitation, nothing. And she asks him, what's up? And he probably thinks she's cursed and he ignores her. So what does she do? Rather than approaching him in a grown-up and godly way, she disguises herself as a prostitute, seduces him, gets pregnant by him, and has his children. It's like, what? This guy buys her, gets her pregnant, then he tries to kill her when they find out that she is with child, and they're like, well, she's committed adultery, she should be killed. And what's interesting is he gave her, because he didn't have payment, like he saw her and he was like, whoa, she's pretty hot. I want her. And he saw her and he wanted to be with her. And she said, well, give me some money. And he didn't have it. So he gave her his staff. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to put this staff on the tree here. We're going to try. But he gave her his staff and he says, I will pay you later. And what he does is he sends some messengers, and they were going to pay her, but then she disappears because her plan was not to get paid. Her plan was to deceive him because he had been lying to her. So she was going to basically trap him. So here's this walking stick, right, that he gave her. And this thing's going to continually tear down my branches here, which is actually kind of perfect analogy here. Let's see if I can get it to balance in here. There it is. So he gives her his stick. He banishes her, or he tries to banish her. She says, no, it's your kid. He realizes what's going on. She gives birth to these children, Perez and Terah, and they continue the line that leads to Jesus. Whoa, right? Their family tree has this deceptive, adulterous, just kind of icky situation here. But that's not all. It goes on in Matthew verse 5. Salmon was the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab. Boaz was the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth. Obed was the father of Jesse, which of course leads to David. We'll get to in a second. But let me ask you a question. There's deception. What if shame was a part of your family history? The verse mentions Rahab, a prostitute in Canaan. She's Canaanite and she's a prostitute. What she did, if you remember the story, is there was the spies from Israel that came to see if they could conquer the land. And she let them in and out. And she asked them to make a covenant with them that she would help them if they spared her. And so he said, absolutely, this is what I want you to do. I want you to hang a scarlet scarf kind of, situation outside of your window so that we know who you are. And I will inform my men not to destroy you. So here she is, and she does this, and of course, the walls came down, they spared her life, trumpets, destroying the wall of Jericho, we're all excited. The city was taken. They held up her end of the bargain. But what's funny, I shouldn't say funny, but what's ironic is now all of her people are gone. She's a prostitute. She really didn't have a future. But she marries an Israelite man. She marries a man named Salmon. Another big deal, again, marrying out of what God had intended for them. And he marries her, and she gives, birth to her children, Boaz, right? Boaz, whose mom was Rahab. Boaz, if you know from the story in the book of Ruth, marries Ruth, another outsider. This is like, all of these things are piling on in the tree. And then Ruth and Naomi, that story, that's crazy. Like Boaz marries outside, Salmon marries outside. You have this prostitute that saves them. And it's like, Holy cow. There's a prostitute, there is deception, and we haven't even scratched the surface. Verse 6, Jesse was the father of King David. David was the father of Solomon, whose mother was Bathsheba, the widow of Uriah. What if adultery was a part of your family history? What if a child was born out of an affair? You know, the story of David. I know you guys are probably familiar with this, but do you see what's happening here? Do you see what's happening with our tree? David had everything a man in his day could want. In his time, he was wealthy beyond all measure. He was wealthy both spiritually, he was wealthy physically, he was wealthy monetarily. He had money, he had fame, he had power, he had influence, he had women, he had history, he had a future. He could have anything he wanted, and the one thing that he chose was the one thing that he did not need: another man's wife. He goes after Uriah's wife, and not only does he shame her by sleeping with her, he shames him because he took his wife. And then when she is pregnant, he murders Uriah. He murders him. He encourages his people, his officers, to put him in a position where he will die. He murders him. And not only that, because of all the things that David was doing, from cheating with Bathsheba and then getting Uriah killed, he gets his unborn child killed. The kid that was in her, the innocent child that was inside of her, dies because of his sin. David, even though he's known as one of the greatest kings of Israel, does this awful thing, but the story doesn't end there. The story doesn't end because he actually turns his heart back to God. He comes before God face down, just repenting. I'm so sorry, God. I have failed you. I have failed my people. And he turns his heart back to God. He pursues the right path, the path that God set before him. But that ornament is still in the tree. See, we usually look at a Christmas tree like this, and we think that, this typically, especially this season, we hang ornaments that are pretty, right? And they have all the holiday colors and the holiday cheer, and that's how we decorate our tree. And I know people that have immaculate trees. I mean, it's almost like they pre-label each branch with where that ornament is supposed to go. Perfect, perfect tree. And for them, the idea of hanging objects that I found around my house in the tree would probably make them kind of nervously tick for a little bit. But when we're talking about our family tree here, most of us realize that everyone has a mess. Everyone has ornaments and branches in their trees that they're not proud of. And I look at story after story here, and there's another one I'm going to tell you. Matthew chapter 1, verse 9 and 10. Uzziah, the father of Jotham, the father of Ahaz, Ahaz, the father of Hezekiah, Hezekiah, the father of Manasseh. What if pain was a part of your family history? Ahaz and Manasseh, I'm going to talk about those two. Ahaz, he had a son, Hezekiah. Hezekiah's son is Manasseh. So Manasseh is Ahaz's grandchild. Well, Ahaz is one of the kings after Solomon. And after Solomon, Israel entered a very, very dark time in their history because there was just one after the other of evil and wicked kings that just continually pushed the people of Israel further and further away from God. Ahaz is no exception. He tore down parts of the temple to set up idols for other gods. He even burned his own son alive. He burned his own son to sacrifice them. Hopefully this will not take my entire tree down. Oh, it might. Ooh. He sacrificed his own child. His own child. It was probably not his firstborn. And these are one of my kids' shoes. This was my third son and my third kid. And he probably sacrificed his second or his third child. And he put them in and burned them alive and offered them to these idols. And the pain that it must have caused their family probably was immeasurable, which is probably why Hezekiah actually didn't do the same things that his dad did, but his son Manasseh did. His grandson was even worse. He tore down parts of the temple even more. He brought witchcraft and idol worship into the temple. He sacrificed his child in the temple as well too. and this is my youngest child's shoe. He sacrificed his children as well too, or his child. Can you imagine the pain that these two men caused their families? That brothers and sisters lost their siblings, that mothers lost their children, the sadness, the mourning, the grief because of this evil deed. And because of this evil deed, their family tree is just a mess. 14 out of 21 kings in Israel's history are listed as terrible kings. If I put that into a record for you, a football record, they were 7-14. That's a really bad losing record. But there's hope. What if it doesn't matter what happened? What if none of this matters? What is it? I mean, I think it's good to look at where you came from, but I think it's only good as long as it helps you get to where you need to be. The pain of the past can help set up your future. I believe that. I have a friend, and she had a deadbeat dad growing up. So he was in and out of the picture, never really supported her and her mom and her family, and he just wasn't a good guy. And eventually he just completely disappeared and stopped talking to either of them. Well, there's the deadbeat dad, and then there's her mom, who I think was affected by her dad leaving, and she just kind of broke mentally, and she would verbally abuse her and just say the most awful things to her. And I've heard some of these awful things that she would say to her just in front of strangers, and I just could not believe my ears that someone would treat their children that way. And this is not, it wasn't just like she did it for a small time in her life. Even into her adult years, when she was into her 20s, she was continually ignored by her father and treated poorly by her mother. And I think about her and the fact that even to this day, she is one of the sweetest people you will ever meet. That the things that happened to her, the pain of her past, did not stop her from developing a future that was positive. It did not stop her from being a better version of herself. And yes, there's pain in her past, and I'm sure it hurt. And when she would tell me these things, I was sad for her, but I wasn't sad in the sense of, oh man, the world is terrible. Because as much as I hated what happened to her, I saw the person before me, and she was not a product of that. She chose in her life to be different. And she learned from her past, and she learned from her parents' mistakes. And she picked a man that when she married him, he would honor her, and he did. And she has amazing children. She has great children. She's a great mom. And now, even as they deal with cancer in the family, they are doing it together. Her past of overcoming these obstacles has given her strength today and allowed her to fight, and to fight with her husband at her side, and to fight with God behind her. Your past does not have to stop your future. As messy as your tree might be, it does not mean that you have no future. Because what if Jesus' family is our future? I love that Jesus' family is all kinds of messed up. I love that. I think it proves his point. I think it proves his point and shows that he is so powerful. He is so able to overcome all of these things. As hard as it may seem, he is with you and he will not leave you. And no matter what your past looks like, you have a future. No matter what your tree has, no matter what is hung in your tree, and there could be tons of things. There could be rotten food in there because there's rotten people in your life. I mean, I don't know. But what Jesus did was he says, yeah, I know. You have adultery in your past, and there's deception in your past, and there's probably murder in your past. Maybe not in the physical sense, but there may be spiritual murder. And your kids may have been harmed in the process, and maybe your kids were abused. And there's all of these things that Jesus says, I know that these are in your life, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you had to go through these. But these do not have to determine your future. I believe that Jesus is saying, you know what? I want to be your tree. I want to be your family tree. The Bible says that we get to choose to be in his family, that he adopts us into his kingdom. And I believe even today we can choose this for us. And he says, I love you so much. I want to be the tree now. I want to be your future. I know this is a part of your past, but it does not have to determine your future. And I believe he says that right now. I believe he says that to you and me as we are trying to navigate this life. He's saying, love me, follow me, be my family. And you will see as I hang something greater in your life. If you've never said yes to Jesus, if you've never given your life to Christ, I want to give you that opportunity. I want you, there's going to be a number that pops on the screen. I want you to text I'm in. This is something that we do even when we're live. We'll have people sit in their chairs and we'll text I'm in. And what this does is you are saying that you want Christ in your life. If you've never given your life to Christ, if you've always just been kind of searching and this Jesus thing has just kind of been over here and you've known about it, or this is the first time you've ever explored it, here's your opportunity. I want you to text I'm in. And we want to walk with you through this. We want to talk to you. We will call you. We'll do whatever we can to help you establish this new tree with Jesus, that he wants to be a part of your family. So I want you to text I'm in, and I'm going to pray for you right now, and I'm going to pray for all those people that are possibly making the decision to follow Christ, because I believe that this is going to be the best decision you'll ever make. So let me pray for you right now. Heavenly Father, I just pray for every person right now that have never really fully embraced you, that have always kept Jesus at an arm's length, and they have this messy family tree like we all do. And I pray for them right now that you will continue to guide them. Stir in their heart right now. I pray that they text I'm in, that they boldly text, Jesus, I want to be where you are. God, I pray for that obedience in their life. And I want to encourage them right now, Lord, that they are making the right step, the best step that they will ever make in their life. Give them boldness in this moment. Give them boldness, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you guys again for being here. I'm so glad you guys are here. Next week, we have our last Sunday. We got something for you. We're going to talk about gifts next week. And then, of course, Christmas Eve services. I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to do those live. We're working on those really, really hard. And you'll be able to tune in on Facebook and check us out and what we're doing. But thank you guys again. Hopefully, you guys have a great day today, and I'll see you guys next week.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes on this journey, I get lost in my mistakes. What looks to me like weakness is a canvas for your strength. And my story isn't over, my story's just begun. And failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father does. Yeah, failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father does. Lay your burdens down here in the Father's house. So check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. You're in the Father's house. Arrival's not the end game, the journey's where you are. You never wanted perfect, you just wanted my heart. And the story isn't over if the story isn't good. The failure's never final when the Father's in the room. The failure's never final when the Father's in the room. Burdens down here in the Father. prodigals come home, the helpless find hope. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Prison doors fling wide, the dead come to life. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Miracles take place, the cynical find faith. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Jericho walls are quaking, strongholds now are shaking. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house. So check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house. So check your shame out the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house.
Thanks so much for joining us today. To make sure that you stay up to date with everything happening at Gold Creek, check out our website, goldcreek.org, follow us on all of our social media platforms, and make sure you download the app onto your phone. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.